NFTs have to go through some kind of regulatory decision, because if an NFT has a utility to it, in other words, if I buy this NFT, I get 2 tickets to the Formula One race here in Miami on May 8th, or I get a smart contract and interest payment if I do an NFT off my watch and it trades in the aftermarket, that certainly smells like a security to me. And,
Shark Tank investor and crypto convert Kevin O'Leary believes non-fungible tokens, NFT, will be bigger than Bitcoin. Hello and welcome to Webster Finance. In today's video, Mr. Wonderful once said that one of the biggest challenges was inventory management, insurance management, and then, of course, authentication. Kevin O'Leary said, when people offer him vintage watches, he has to go through a very arduous authentication process to know if it's fake or not, as there's so many fake watches in the market. But NFT is the only solution to solve all of those problems. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into the video.
When you buy securities for income or for utility, they're regulated through prospectus and Reg A and whatever else you're using. It's not exciting for me to get involved in NFTs that are providing utility and then find out later I'm offside with regulators. So I've avoided that. I don't have a problem buying NFT as art, and I have done some of that. Regarding the metaverse, you've got 2 big debates going on. The economics of how that's going to work. Is it going to be advertising and transaction fees? Probably both. Obviously, that world is going to be generated first by gaming, and I think there's some opportunities there. Then there's the big debate about a metaverse that's curated for big brands like a Nike or Johnson & Johnson. They would probably buy space from a curated metaverse where they can advertise knowing that their storefront is not set up beside a porn shop. And then there's the unregulated metaverse, which could be far more Wild West, and you don't know how that model is going to work out yet. I think there's merit for both. Here in Miami, I saw a rather interesting development, 2 giant condo towers being sold all on the metaverse, with unique opportunities to go tour your facility and even take a shower. It was remarkable how high detail there was in that metaverse, and let you look at your unit, the pool facilities, the restaurants in it, even though they haven't broken ground. A multi-million-dollar project, but it's sold out. So there you have it. The metaverse has use case that makes economic sense. It's going to take 3 years. I would say the Canadian order is a really good one in terms of getting countries up and running. And I certainly know that other countries like the UAE and Brazil and Peru and other Nordic countries are looking at the Canadian model and saying, well, that seems to be working. And so the way that kind of works to understand what is being proposed by these regulators is, let's start with a compliant dealer-broker mandate attached to an exchange so you can actually trade these securities. But let's limit which coins are there initially so that we can have some control over it. Primarily, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe a few others that are slowly granted. So far, there's not a lot of staking or lending in that model yet, but I think that's to come, particularly around stable coins. When we get some policy on that, maybe USDC and others, that would be great because it provides income for people that are desperately looking for it that they can't get in savings accounts. But I also see with these compliant platforms a lot more intriguing opportunity to work with traditional banks to provide for people that have accounts, traditional accounts in banks or where they have a brokerage account and they would like to own some Bitcoins or some Ethereum, to do it on a compliant way that services like Bitbuy, like Coinberry, like WonderFi can provide those relationships with traditional banks. And the only way that's going to happen, and that not just in Canada, but in other countries, if it's done on a compliant basis, back to that theme of compliant crypto, because no bank is going to go offshore and be non-compliant. That's just not going to happen. And so that's really why I'm an investor in WonderFi. I see it as an onboarding ramp for banks eventually. It's still early days, but this consolidation that's occurring by necessity, you see WonderFi acquire or go into a deal to acquire Coinberry. It's because it makes economic sense for all the shareholders involved. The customer acquisition costs drop for WonderFi, the service level goes up, the number of accounts increases, the assets under management also increase, and the company becomes larger, more scalable, and it provides better services and products to its customers. That's what happens in a consolidation, and I'd be surprised if it's not I wouldn't be surprised if there's more consolidation in the Canadian crypto market. It just has to happen. XRP has to clean up its act with the regulator. That has to get completely resolved. It's also on the no-fly zone list in many other jurisdictions, if you want to call it that. We cannot afford to put that on any platform that we have that's regulated for obvious reasons. And it's up for that project to get out of the penalty box it's in. And I have no problem once they clear the regulatory hurdle and everything is clean. But I want to point something out. You know, if you look at the Toomey bill or the Haggerty bill, they call for a clean audit every 30 days. And they also call for no assets that have a duration of more than 12 months. But it's the clear audit every 30 days that everybody's going to have to comply by on these types of tokens and coins. And so you have to be able to show that whatever you're saying your assets that are backing it up, you got to be able to do that. And, you know, that's why you have, you know, players that are less controversial like USDC providing that, even though that's not regulated yet either. But that's how they were able to convince Fidelity and BlackRock to put up $400 million, I assume. That's a huge investment. So, you know, XRP, it'd be great after it's cleaned up its act. After the regulator and the OSC says it's okay, then it's okay for us. But we do not go rogue. We are not crypto cowboys. Two things. I would start with no more than $1,000, and I would open up a decentralized wallet and a centralized one on Coinberry or on Bitbuy, and start to deploy that capital. Move 500 into each and learn how these platforms work. Educate yourself. You don't need to go past maybe 2 or 3 positions, maybe a little Bitcoin, a little Ethereum, maybe a little Solana, a little Polygon. That is plenty of exposure to watch the volatility, understand how it works, learn what gas fees are, see the difference between the direct ownership of a decentralized wallet on WonderFi and a centralized wallet on Coinberry or on Bitbuy, and just start to understand that. Now, whether you make money or not in the beginning doesn't matter. It's understanding how these platforms work and getting used to trading. That's what I did. I did that 2.5 years ago, and I became very proficient at it by just learning. And it's a very interesting space, but you start small. The key is to open that account and fund it. You transfer some dollars, and then you upload it, and you learn how to buy and hold these positions on a centralized and decentralized platform. What pace things get listed. I mean, it makes sense to broaden the base of shareholders. I've always believed, and when I take large positions in companies, I do it because I'm an advocate for the management. I'm an advocate for their vision. I'm an advocate for the sector. And I think to the extent that the management can tell their story so that new shareholders, I mean, I'd like to see WonderFi listed in many different countries because I think it's going to be a global platform. That's why I invested in it long term. But at any one time and any one regulator, you just don't know. I think the key is to continue doing what it's doing, acquiring great companies, building the platform, reducing customer acquisition fees, providing new tokens and coins and new services to its customers. And long term, that will resolve itself. You know, I think you have to have a plan. I mean, nothing happens overnight. It's just not possible. But this idea of compliant crypto is very, very attractive to institutional investors. And so it lets them resolve a lot of problems in terms of what they can do. And I think when you buy WonderFi shares, regardless of what exchange they're on, you are buying the infrastructure of the internet. It's the same analogy as, you know, the gold rush hundreds of years ago. You want to own the companies that make the picks and shovels and jeans, the clothing that people wear. You want the infrastructure because you're agnostic to the price of any token or coin. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes up or down in terms of the outcome for what happens with WonderFi. What matters is it provides the infrastructure so that those who want to own it can own it on a compliant basis. That's the investment thesis. So I'm hopeful it'll find its way onto multiple exchanges all around the world over time.